All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. One thing that I want to go over is coming into the morning, how we evaluate, how we get to the point of knowing that today is going to be chopped, right? And I kind of covered this yesterday, but I think that it's important to really reiterate what that looks like so that we can better assess the morning and not get too hungry and understand when we can take the time to kind of just hang out and hang with our friends and family and, in my case, go to the beach and enjoy spring break and so forth. So waking up this morning, the first thing we saw here was a line in the sand. We had a pivot high over here at 28.26. And when you looked at the range, there's nothing out there as far as catalyst goes that if you notice, I'm going to put the night range out there almost nightly on Twitter and in the room and so forth. And the range that I have to work with would be from this pivot low up into pivot high. Um, I'm not going to use this because I don't forecast or see anything detrimental that's out there. Now, anything can happen, but here lately it's been pretty smooth sailing as far as the overnight range and so forth. So what I do want to look at though is the pivot high here, and then just kind of look at our one, we had the trendy edge here, okay, and we had this pivot low. So I'm going to bring that range down to the trendy edge and I'm going to box this, previous overnight high and then the trendy edge. And basically, I expect range to fall in here because we know we have support at the trendy edge and we know we have a high that we have to get out of. Now, if we don't get over the high, we don't create a trend. You know what I mean? So we're not to extend this trend, we must get over 28, 26 and continue up with higher lows and higher highs. Within the immediate range that we're looking at, notice we have lower highs, okay, and lower lows. This is actually a downtrend within an up range, okay? Again, this is a downtrend within an up range. So, if you're into shapes and stuff like that, you could build yourself a channel here. I'm not trying to make it perfect, but, and then within this range, so what we can do is we can measure this entire thing and look at how far we're pulling back. So almost 50% of that entire range there. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. So far off the trendy edge, it's actually been, so you have to think here, depending on how aggressive you are, how you trade, some people just trade SPY, some people just trade SPX and so forth. If you look at this, I mean, it's a very simple process, right? We came into the bottom of the box or the trendy edge, and we know that when price is above the trendy edge, we're looking for support. I noted in the room as soon as this happened, look for the bounce, okay? So we look for that bounce, and then we're able to identify a couple things on my blueprint. We have the line in the sand, which is the white line that goes across. This thing acts as a magnet until it doesn't, okay? So last night showed you an example how you could short off of the list and made some quick money. And then this morning showing you that the edge works. Now the question is, I actually had a question yesterday, is how do we know that the edge is going to work? It's the same way as if let me think the way to answer this perfectly. So just like demand and supply, right? So when price comes into demand, how do we really know if price is going to continue up into the supply zone, right? So I look at my edges the same exact way. When we come into them, how do I know that we're going to continue off of that? The only thing that I can do is the candle that I use to monitor is that I look for higher lows and higher highs to continue. And if those higher lows and higher highs continue, we continue trending up in a down range. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's not necessarily, I don't want to speculate. You have to have the patience, whatever that means, right? If you're using 5-minute candles, 10-minute candles, right? So I have a zone up here and I have a trendy edge here and I'm continuing the uptrend within this range, right? To get up into supply, right? So that's what I see there. And I want that to continue. Now, as long as price, now this is hard for a lot of people, okay, because this is what happens on choppy days. Price can come back down to the zone and then we just, boom, go back and forth, right? It looks like an EKG or something. And what that is called is theta burn. A lot of times you don't want to open up positions during a chop day. Okay, so I'm very light in the portfolio. I think everybody knows that. This entire month has been really light for me, but I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that because if I would have put on several positions today, I'd probably be really frustrated, right? But I'm not, and I bought a little bit of time, and then I put out something, concerning JPM. Again, it's a risky trade. I'm just looking for a little bit of volatility, and if that trade works out, I went in smaller with wider range stops. I hope that makes sense too. So here, I'm going to kind of draw this out and I want to show you guys. I'm going to use a yellow marker here, but just say price does this all day long. Okay. And then we come up here and do this. See, the way that I look at it is here, higher highs, right? Higher lows, right? Just like this. So we're continuing up, but we expect this kind of move and chop, sideways kind of chop here. Okay. So overall, this is still working from the trendy edge, and we are still slowly moving to the supply that lurks above on a smaller candle. I think that was like 15 minutes or something. Okay, so long as this continues. Now, how does this range within itself, okay, how does this range within itself void what I'm saying, right? Well, there's a couple things that you could do, right? So if you're watching price, you can simply just do this. Okay, pivot low to pivot high. And we know that within a trend, right? This is just a trend within a range. This trend here, I don't want it below 618. Okay, that falls right back into the zone, by the way. So below 618, this small trend that we're watching breaks. Okay, the bigger picture is more what I'm interested in. I want to continue higher lows and higher highs within the down range that I showed you. Again, so looking at the overnight high over here, so if we just come over here, you're looking at this, price is picking up out of the zone. We have something here that could cause a little bit of a hiccup. Now, let's go ahead and measure this and see where this happens. My guess is it's probably around 50% of this entire range. Pivot high to pivot low, that's around the 618. Okay, it's right around the trend change. And this all starts to make sense when you start to put all this together, right? So if price is sluggish here, we would expect that it would die out around the 61.8, wouldn't we? 50 to 618, okay? So looking over at this, we have some supply that happens to be right above the 618 and also in sync with the cash close, okay? All the members that are in here that have been here for quite a while understand the significance of all those things I'm talking about, right? The cash close, supply and demand, and the range trading. They all kind of come together as one, okay? So when we woke up again, just to reiterate, when we woke up this morning, very simple, looking at the range, okay? That being 28.26 and the overnight low. However, we have the trendy edges, so we're going to use that. This is not anything to be concerned about. And if you have something going on in your life, right? And somebody's yelling at you like, "Hey, you spent too much time in front of the screen," right? Then really your easier trade, guys, is going to be under here and above here. This entire range is chop. It's a channel. Unless you're a professional scalper, and I can tell you from experience, I'm really good at scalping. I'm not good at scalping per se with an audience. It's something I feel more comfortable with because it takes a lot of focus and I don't want to answer questions, but I can teach you, right? But when I'm in scalp mode, I really need to have things turned off and just me and the screens and understanding what I'm looking at because you got to be really fast, right? Especially when you're trading supply and demand. Okay, so for instance, if I'm in this, right, we went over, watched a scalp trade video over in lessons. We went over this and I'm scalping, and I'm riding this wave and it's higher lows and I'm about to get a higher high. I need to be reducing the candle size here to even find even smaller zones that might stop me out and so forth. All right, so it's pretty cool. All right, so that's pretty much showing you how we wake up in the morning and we know that it's going to be chop. Now let's look at a different scenario, right? What if, let's hypothetical here, okay, because we need to do that, and I'll show you these as they happen, but what if this was the zone that I'm telling you about, or the channel, what if price would have broke down here today? Then we would have come up and retested this level here, the trendy edge, and we would have started closing candles out under here. That's when I get aggressive to the downside, okay? What if we would have broken the high up here at 28.26, okay? What if we come back, test this, this turns into support, then we trade it up into upper targets. So again, everything in between here is all speculation. If you take a trade from here, understand there's supply and demand that's lurking. How do you get out of this, right? I've talked about this a couple times. How does price get out of these smaller demands and stuff? It takes a chaotic candle or a parabolic candle or some kind of catalyst to move us. That might be news, right? That might be a tweet from the POTUS. That might be, something on the econ data that's going to push us out of here. That's how the market works. Last couple days, we had some parabolic moves. Really, there's no catalyst out there. So what happens is that's where we find consolidation and chop, right? And so we just have to respect that. So as much as you want to trade, and some traders say, hey, I got like 250 days of trading. If I made $500 a day, that gives me X amount of money. But honestly, the truth is when you take out the chop days from that equation, and then you take out a couple other things, that include your rules, you don't really get that many days. Okay, so very important to understand that you come into trading with the right expectations. There's no way that anybody in this room, if you're new or old, and I say this with confidence, is going to make money every single day. There's just no way. Absolutely impossible. Okay. Now, if you look back and you bought, 10,000 shares of Apple 20 years from now, yeah, you made money, right? You made money every day. You could calculate that. But options trading, futures trading, all that, you're going to have some down days. All right. Understand it's part of the process. Understand that you must have some defined risk. My defined risk is easy. If I took this scalp here, I don't want to be in the scalp if it breaks underneath here. As it moves up, I don't want price to pull back more than X percentage of that move. Very simple. Okay. All right, let's go over a couple of trades, why I did or why I didn't take a trade. Okay, moving on down here, let's take a look at Apple. I do like Apple here. So I just sent you guys this picture. I said, if we break out to the upside, looking for the target above. If we break to the downside, looking for the target below. Very simple. Moving down here, Amazon, that came up a lot, folks. What we had here is on a smaller scale, we had some supply up here. Price moved up. This is when everybody started getting excited. This is when people on FinTwit and so forth are like, hey, we're adding. And this is also, not to bring up any names, right? I love you, Anil. But this is like, hey, this is when Anil says, hey, John, what do you think about Amazon, right? This is right in that section where euphoria starts to build, all right? And so we just have to be patient. Where is the trade from Amazon? The trade is actually when it came back into the trendy edge here. You got a nice pop up into here. Look, like I said, during chop, the mentality for me is you're scalping until proven otherwise. So if price takes off, right? So your expectation should be small. Your expectation should be small during chop. Your position size, right? My opinion is it probably should be small, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So you get that. Your position size is smaller, but your stops can be wider. Why would you do that, right? Well, you don't want to be getting, throwing in the kitchen sink, as they would say, on a choppy day, because most likely it will test your emotions like no other day in the market. At first, you'll be up 30%, and in 2 minutes, you might be down 60%. And then you get out of your position, and 5 minutes later, you would have been up 100%. So what you do, instead of, let's say that your normal trade is 1,000, you might go in with $200, but put like a 70%, 80% stop on it because you're okay with losing 20% of $1,000 position. Again, you have $1,000 position, your usual stop, let's say is 20%, which is $200. Instead of putting 1,000 today in the market, you would put $200 in it with a wider stop, or you just don't care, right? And so you just let the market do what it's going to do, and you're not worried. And if the market breaks those key points that I was talking about, you can then add to the position and begin like your typical size, right? Does that make sense? So I think that is really important to come in and understand what kind of day that we're working with. So for example, if you took Amazon way up here and things were looking amazing, after all these candles on 5 minute, right? Let me get this a little bit smaller here. I like to use 5 minutes on the futures guys and 15 on the equity just for intraday, right? I definitely don't do charts on a 15-minute candle. But you look at this, I mean, this is just absolute theta burn, okay? All right. So something like this, you take the trade here and it goes sideways, you're still not interested until we get it above that high or we break down below the low. It's basically put in a range for us for the day, okay? All right, moving down here, let me think of a couple other trades and just kind of go over them. Everybody knows and understands how important the cash close can be as well. It's kind of cool. I don't know why it works so much, but it does. It's kind of like the LIS, but the LIS on futures, I have to change myself, where the cash close is just automated, right? And the LIS on futures is not the cash close. All right. So here, cash close just serves as a line in the sand for intraday trading. So if you're looking for it, you're waiting to see, does it hold it? So you wait for these candles, whatever you're using, 5, 10, 15 minute. Again, I prefer 15 minute for equity. I want to see that the candles can actually close above it or below it, and I like a 3 candle sequence. As you can see, the first candle of the day could not hold it. The second day closed underneath, and then down it went. Okay, pretty cool. All right, moving down here, let's go to CVS. Okay, CVS, right? What I meant to say today, and I apologize, folks. I keep saying CVX and CVS. Man, it's kind of hard, right? One of them has an S, one of them has an X, but no E. Haha. Anyways, so you look in here and don't be greedy. We got in at $1.68. You had an opportunity to get out at 420 and so forth. Most of you probably aren't even in the trade anymore. Pete, I don't know if you're listening today. Are you still in shares or just kind of curious? Yeah. Okay. So I know, a lot of traders who trade shares, they have a lot more patience than we do with options. That's for darn sure. But the trade still looks good. So if you look at your cost of $1.68, I mean, it's still trading around, I think, 330, 340, somewhere in there, right? So you're still up 100%, which is kind of nice. So when you're in a swing trade with options and you're riding 100, 125%, that's always nice because you can give yourself a little bit of lax time, understanding that a catalyst can come out of anywhere and ruin that entire position, right? So just understand that. CVX over here. Why did I take the trade? So I don't want you to get confused on why I took a trade here. Has nothing to do with intraday. Okay, so I'm not, to be quite transparent, I'm not very concerned at all with what's going on right now. What I'm looking at is the daily chart. Okay, and we're making higher highs above the blueprint that I made you in the swing trade channel. You guys see this? So 1, 2, 3, 4 since Monday. I mean, really your entry. Remember, we traded this and I got out of it as well. But since Monday, this thing continues to make higher highs. And really, I'm looking for a full bodied candle. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking for. These things are weak, man. So I still think we get up to 127, but what I'm looking for is, something that has a little body to it. So I need to see something like this. I'm happy today as long as we close out above 124.68. That was the next target. And I was saying yesterday it needs higher high from here, and it did make that higher high, and that's why I'm taking the trade. Okay. A lot of you, I hear, and this is the thing too, to be transparent about rooms, folks. Just because a moderator makes money on a trade does not mean the people in the room make money on the trade, and vice versa. Just because I lose money on a trade doesn't mean that everybody lost money on that trade, right? We all have different needs, we all have different emotions. The idea of this is just to understand what you're getting yourself into. I'm getting myself more into a swing position. For me, that means anything overnight nowadays. So here, I want to see that price is going to continue up and make higher highs. That is the long prospectus of this look here at CVX. Okay, so just understand that. All right, moving on down here. I want to go over some of the big names. We went over Amazon. I noticed a lot of people on Twitter jumping into those names, and I just have a process I have to follow. And what it simply is that three candle process. And what you find is so many times, if you get that chaotic candle in the morning, retail jumps in on it. Then we get the pullback into the LIS or the cash close for that day, and then on the third candle, that candle, it's crazy. Within the first 45 minutes, you can pretty much see how your day's going to go. All right. So pretty neat. Anyways, so we'll kind of go through those and look for those signs and what they mean. Okay. Go to a 15-minute over here on Google. Okay. So on Google, Google's interesting. Okay. And I should get this question more often than I don't. But what I want to show you is I drew this for, I think, Tim, I drew this for you earlier this morning, and look how well it worked. And what you're looking at here, folks, is their supply above, okay, on a smaller candle. And I drew the ascending basically. And what I did over here was on a different candle, but I basically found a place where price continues to touch and then move down. So you're looking for something that gets touched the most. Notice this candle touched here, this candle, this candle. Three times it touched and it failed. Okay. So I'm going to use this as a source of resistance. And then I'm going to have this nice little, line going up here if you're into that. And then what you're looking for to see is if it can actually get past this. Okay. When we break down, I look for 88.7. That's usually my key to know if price is going to, keep that low. Look, I'm doing this all impromptu, folks. 88.7 to the tick. Okay. So this is what I like to see, or I like to see this on an entry down here. Okay. Like to see this on an entry. So if you didn't grab Google, you could grab Google with a stop below this, and it keeps you from putting too much risk into the trade. Does that make sense? Pretty neat. All right. So what is the big deal for today? Again, looking at the pivots, the major pivots right now, you have lower highs, and in this case, you have higher lows. Can somebody tell me what trend that is? Let's see. See if we can find something over here worth taking a look at. So this is a sideways trend, right? And we don't really want to do anything with sideways. We really don't. Nothing to do there. All right, let's look at Netflix. Absolutely, over and over. POS, and that doesn't stand for position, but it continues to break down. It's almost like every little single target that we've had, every time it hits it, it pulls back really quick. So people are looking for the higher high and the higher high, and it just keeps failing. Um, and I'm kind of tired of talking about Netflix. It's on my poop list. I'm just not interested in it. And guess what? That's usually when the stock will take off at some point, and get people in, and then it goes sideways again and gets people out. So you just got to be convicted in the trade overall. I think that Netflix itself, no matter how I look at it this week, it's holding the trendy edge. That's what I'm happy about. So if I'm long in these arrows here, this is the trend, the overall monthly trend, and we're in the upper bullish trend of the last month. So things are looking pretty good. You just need to break out of all these wicks here. And once we do that, I think we get a nice clear move to 371, 375. Okay. I want to talk about this. This is pretty common as well. When you bounce out of demand, I notice on a bigger time frame, we come back and sometimes recheck that with a candle. All right, and so it'd be nice if this candle for NIO closes back up above the list of 630 today. Can come back and check that a little bit later. Okay, I know we had some traders that like PayPal. So Brazil, I don't know if you're on, but this one's nice because now we're finally above it. I'd like to see a couple days that we actually hold the LIS. If we can hold the LIS for a couple days, I'm looking for those extension targets in a 101, 102, 105. Okay, nice. Did it take out yesterday's high? No. So I mean, really, that's what you're looking for today, right? See if it could do that. I really like UHS. Always have. This one, uh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can see here came back, checked the trendy edge. Nice trade all the way from there. Looking for the next target at 136 and then 137. And this is actually pretty lined up. These red arrows are pretty much lined up with a little bit of supply there. So just know that. So 137 being a target from here looks pretty solid with a stop under 133.48. So the risk there on UHS is like a buck, a little bit more than that. So Roku on the intraday trade. These are the things that I look for. As soon as we open, we leave, the cash close down here. Let's say this is a cash close, a trendy edge, it doesn't matter. We typically come back to recheck it. Okay. Let's go to some of the banks here. Okay, here's JPM, made another higher high. What I got going on here, I'm more focused on the bigger picture, even though I bought next week. Thought I'd be a little bit riskier here. And what you're seeing here is you got 105.23 as the overall list. What I'm looking for is a move up into this edge right here around 106.90. A break of that gives me 107.67. Okay. Goldman Sachs. Let's look for. It looks like it probably wants 199 here, probably by into tomorrow or next week though, and then might be a nice short from there. KSS, I wanted to possibly get into this yesterday on a short side, but if you notice, it broke below the mid edge, came straight down into a bullish channel here, and has bounced. So your support here is at $67. And nothing to report on J&J. If anything, I wouldn't mind, jumping into J&J around 136.84 and 136. All right, let's go back up here, look at the ES really quick. Remember, if you're new here, my biggest thing is using ES. You literally don't have to look at a SPY and an SPX chart. Your job is basically to look at what the correlation is right now, and because the quad witch in, and because we had options expiration and so forth, the correlation's kind of off. What I mean is ES is showing 2819. Come down here to SPY real quick. You can see here it's 281.68. Let's just call it 70. And so you can look at the numbers here and just know that that is off about looks about 20 or 30 cents. And if you come over here on SPX, 2814, it's been off about 5 points ever since. So if I were targeting 2830 up here, 2828, take 5 points off of that right now. So it'd be 2823. Okay. Anything that any of you would like to take a look at that I haven't covered? And Apple continues to look pretty strong there as well. WWE was doing pretty good this morning. And we had some discussion on this through Twitter. I think Sunday or Monday. It's kind of done exactly what we figured it was going to do here. Had some momentum, came up into supply, but it can still run up until like the 92 level, and then might turn into a short there. We'll see. We'll see how this works out. But nice move that it's had over the last 4 days. So. All right, guys, I would love to, talk and talk and talk. Oh, by the way, TWLO, I think I showed this earlier, is definitely moving. This is a nice little breakout that we're looking at here. 131.85 is your next target here. It's about a buck away. So for all you scalpers out there, what I'd be looking at is this little bit of pocket of demand as long as 129.70 holds. This might be a nice ride up into 131.85 there. Okay. All right, so I think that's about it. Usually I would love to talk more, but I need a break today from looking at, I don't want to, the choppy market entices you to trade. I feel like that's what it's built for. If you guys, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here. If you need anything, let me know. I'm going to continue throwing out charts and just kind of talking and so forth. But I'm going to shut down the WebEx. If I decide if something happens that's exciting, I'll jump back on. But I'm going to clean up a little bit, watch the charts, and just kind of carry on. So.